This is the inside of the Elddis Accordo 135. If we firstly come to the main control panel, we can turn the 12 volt on the master switch. When we do this, we'll fire the system up and you'll see it will give us the voltage of the leisure battery. Above that we have lights. As you can see, the majority of the lights are now turned on as soon as I've turned the 12 volt on. They can all be individually turned on and off on their own switches. But this particular switch here will do the light above the mirror and the lighting above the overhead lockers just here. Next we have water pump. Water pump needs to be on so we can get water out of the taps, fill the boiler and flush the toilet. Beneath that we have awning light on and off. To view how much water is in the fresh tank, just hold the water button down and then look at the voltmeter. You'll see this little blue gauge here. And as you can see, the tank is full at the moment. Whenever the water pump is actually running, so if we now just open up the tap, you'll see the green light illuminates to let you know. There is also another light that will appear above it, and this one here will illuminate in red when the grey water tank needs emptying. If we now drop to the lower control panel, this is the whale control panel for your heating and your hot water. You'll see we have water heater here and heating here. If we now press the button, you'll see that we're currently both off, and as I press they go over a series of icons until it eventually ends up at off. So if we start with the first icon just here, little picture of a snowflake, this is frost protection. So if you don't necessarily want to be heating up your hot water, but you do have water in the boiler and you want to avoid frost damage, just put it onto here. And if the temperature outside drops below a certain temperature, it will come on to avoid damage. Next we have wavy line. Wavy lines represent mains electricity. I always round up because it makes it easier. So I class this as main supply using about 1 kilowatt. We then have two wavy lines, which is mains electricity using about 2 kilowatts. So these two here are just dependent on the ampage of the site that you're on to stop yourself from tripping. We then have a flame, which is gas on its own. So if you're not hooked up to main supply, you can heat your hot water on that. If you have both power sources available to you, you can use dual fuel. So a mixture of gas and mains at 1 kilowatt and a mixture of gas and mains at 2 kilowatts. This setting here is especially handy in the winter months to get you up to temperature nice and quickly. It's also handy if there's going to be more than one of you having showers in quick succession of each other. Whenever you are consuming gas, you will get this little flame appear just here. And then back to off again. With the heating, it's incredibly similar to the water heater. So we have off, then we have main supply again, but this time one wavy line represents about 500 watts. Two wavy lines, 1 kilowatt, and 3 wavy lines, 2 kilowatts. We then have gas on its own again, and then dual fuel. Control the temperature on the plus and the minus. Dropping the red line all the way down to the little picture of the moon just there is what is classed as night mode. So it's a low heat, but secondly the fan will be quieter as well. And again, whenever it's consuming gas, a flame will appear just here. If there's a problem in any shape or form with the boiler or the heater, a red exclamation mark will appear either here or here to let you know. Wherever the red exclamation mark is, so if it's for the water heater, press and hold the water heater button and a series of red lights will appear to let you know what the problem is. And exactly the same with the heating, hold the heating button down series of red lights. It will either be in the manual, or I find it's quicker to just Google it and then it will tell you what the problem is. If it's something relatively easy and you can rectify it, once you've rectified it, you will need to reset the control panel, and the way we do that is by, if it's a water heater problem, firstly holding the tap down and then holding the plus at the same time, and obviously if it's for the heating and then the plus at the same time. If when you've done that the red exclamation mark comes back, always just try a couple of times more. If it's still doing it, there are hard resets, both on the space heater and the boiler, which I will show you as we move on through the video. It's basically just a small little red button on the unit itself. It's easier doing it as a two-person job. One person stares at the control panel, the other person repeatedly presses the red button until the exclamation mark disappears. And again, back to off again. We have the table secured just here, which attaches to the pole back here. We then have the 3 gas rings. To ignite these, it's push in, twist, and then come down to here and push the igniter. And then the last one. Beneath the hob, we then have the oven and the grill. So if we now push in and go to the left, we can fire up the oven. And if we then push in and go to the right, we can then fire up the grill. In the cupboard just here, we have storage. You will see that there is a gas drop hole just here. When popping stuff in, just make sure that you're not blocking it up. Same again in here. You will also see that we have gas isolation taps for most of the appliances. So we have the cooker, the hob, fridge and heating in here. They are all in the on position and can stay like that. I usually say they're more for maintenance than anything else. Smell gas in the van, go to the source and turn the gas bottle off. Also in here we have the water pump just there. And then underneath the fridge we have the consumer unit. So we have the mains trip switches just here, so we have all the individual MCBs all labelled up. The main RCD and test button just here. So if something's not working on main supply, just check to see whether or not you have tripped. Down here we have the 12-volt fuses. Again, they are all labelled up. So again, if something's not working on 12 volt, just check to see if you have blown a fuse. With the Dometic fridge, at the moment we're currently in the off position. If we want to run it on mains, we turn it to the little picture of the 2-pin plug just there. Next we have a little picture of a battery, which is 12 volt maintain. This is the one we turn it to keep the fridge cold whilst we're on the move, so the engine does need to be running. And then lastly we have gas. If we are going to use the fridge on gas, we need to come across to the temperature control just here. What we need to do is hold it in, push the igniter, and then this little line here will drift out of the white into the green to let you know it's lit. Always hold it down for a few seconds, let go. As long as we stay on the green, we know we're now lit. If it had dropped back off again, I would have just repeated the process. As soon as we turn back off again, you'll see it automatically puts itself out. Fridge and freezer compartment. And then we have the travel catch just here. If we now come to the wardrobe, in here we have the television aerial. So we have the booster box just here, which boosts the signal on and off underneath just here. Control the boost just here. With the aerial itself to raise the mast, loosen off the collar, and then we can then push the mast up and then twist it into the position that we require, and then we lock it back into place. Never over tighten these collars because you can split the plastic. What we can also do with these Teleco aerials is take it from the horizontal position and move it into a vertical for additional tuning if required. And all we do is we just turn the tail just here. Do make sure that the aerial is back down again for travel. If we now come to the washroom, we have the Thetford toilet just here. The bowl does swivel about. To open to the cassette, just slide the grey lever across just here. Push to flush just here. And then close back up again. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you feel resistance, just check to make sure that nobody has left it open. Level indicator just here, so it will illuminate at this point to let you know when it needs emptying. We then have the basin and shower just there. If we now come to the back and we just remove these cushions, we can then lift up. This will then hold up on the gas struts. What we can also do, if you need additional storage at the back here, is actually drop this section out of the way. You will see that we have a lever just here. You do have to take the weight off it, which then pushes in, and exactly the same at this side as well, which then pushes in, and then we can then drop the whole part out of the way. Now we've got this out of the way, we can see the gas isolation tap there just for the boiler, and then the boiler itself just sits here. On this model it's sunk underneath the van, so all we can see here is just the small part of it. We have the boiler drain valve just there, so to drain the boiler down for winterization, make sure that your water pump is turned off, and then literally just twist it across like so, and it will then drop all the water out of the boiler. I then always suggest that you then open up all of the taps as well. This will aid in releasing any airlocks in the system, and it will help in draining off. When it comes to filling it back up again, fill up your fresh water tank, make sure that the drain valve is back in this position just here. Close all your taps, turn your water pump on, let it start filling. After a few minutes, then begin opening up your taps. They'll cough, they'll splutter as they force the air out. Wait until they're running freely on hot and cold, and then close them back up again, and then the system will fully reprime. The red hard reset button is just here, so if you do get that red exclamation mark and you can't clear it down, as I said, you can come here and repeatedly press this until it disappears. 9 times out of 10 this will solve any issue. if we now fold back down again and we pop the cushions back on, and we now come across to the other side, which I've already removed the cushions from, and again we now raise up. Again we have more storage, and again this can be folded down. As you can see, both sides can be tethered as well. This side here we have the back of the battery locker. We also have the main 12-volt fuse just here, which is a 25 amp, and also we have the solar panel regulator just there. We don't need to do anything with it, it will just smart charge the batteries as it's required. Again, now if we now close it back up again and we pop the cushions back on, and we now move back down to the front, I will now show you how to make up the additional third bed. So firstly we just need to remove the table. So we just loosen off here and here. We can then take the table out. Once we've now moved that out of the way, we can get all of our infills. We then need to rotate the driver's seat round exactly the same way as I've done with the passenger seat. So you'll see that we have the lever just down here. We just pull that and then rotate the seat round, and then we slide it back. We now pull this section across. We then get our infill and we squeeze it into place so it then looks like that. We then get our other infill just there, and then the topper sits on the top. Depending on how tall the person is, you may need to remove this back cushion just here. If I now remove it all again, as you can now see as I've put away some of the bed cushions and now removed this seat cushion, we can see the fresh water tank just here. We can gain access into it, and then the actual space heater itself is just tucked down here. So the red reset button is just there now coming into view. So again, if this fails, you can just repeatedly press this to reset the system. Smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarm just up there, both battery operated, so just give them a test every now and then to make sure they're working correctly.